request. If you can switch on your videos, it'll be wonderful. If not, still it is wonderful. At least you're attending the class. Okay. So we are supposed to start from verse number 10, 3.10. And in the previous class, we discussed a very important verse. Yagya arthat karmano nitraloko yam karma bandhana tadartham karma kauntaya mukta sangha samachara. Can anyone give a brief summary of last week's discussion, if possible? Yes, anyone would like to give a brief summary of the discussion last week? Yes, Nidhi Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, please go ahead.
Prabhuji, in last class, we have learned about yagya. What is yagya? Sacrificing our sense gratification for interest of Krishna is yagya. And liberation is only possible if we offer all the result, if we offer all the result of our karma to Krishna. And because that will liberate us, that will provide prohibit us from bonding to our result of karma. So when we are not bonded to any kind of karma, we are free of life and death. And second thing we have learned, Prabhuji, was we should perform our karma according to our gunas and offer all the results to Krishna. In whatever position, in whatever gunas, whatever varna we are, we should not lament. We should just perform our karma and offer everything to Krishna. That's it, Prabhuji.
Okay,
Hare
thank
Krishna.
you very much. Anyone else would like to add something? Yes. So it'll be a good idea if you can maybe revise and come. Otherwise, we might find difficult to even connect where we ended, isn't it? So it's important to once again go through what you have. In fact, you should go through 2-3 times during the week. Bhagavad Gita is a little deep subject. There's a lot of subtle understanding, not gross. It is not a gross subject like material subjects, mathematics, science. They are subtle subject. So it'll require contemplation again and again, revision again and again. Yes, Leena Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Guruji. Guruji, यही था उसमें one more thing was there that that as we discussed that we should find out our guna, our qualities, and by staying in that varna or ashram, and then because we will be happy with what we are doing, then we will have time for spiritual realization, which is the purpose of life, which is the purpose of human life. So that's why we should be in varna ashram. So we have discussed the related verses also, that why we should be in our varna and ashram, and how can we be, how to identify which is our varna, which makes us happy basically, which we, so that we have time for the spiritual work.
Devas. Thank you, Mataji. Anyone else? Any last comment? What is yagya? What is the best form of yagya? These two important points we discussed. What is yagya and what is the best form of yagya? Yes, ma'am, Prabhu.
When we refer as a yagya, it is like work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu. So, when we say yagya, it is like work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu. So, when we say yagya, it is like work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu. So, when we say yagya, it is like work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu. So, when we say yagya, it is like work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu. So, when we say yagya, it is like work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu. So, when we say yagya, it is like work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu. So, when we say yagya, it is like work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu. So, when we say yagya, it is like work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu. So, when we say yagya, it is like work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu. So, when we say yagya, it is like work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu. So, when we say yagya, it is like work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu. So, when we say yagya, it is like work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu. So, when we say yagya, it is like work done as a sacrifi
Okay, very good. So simplistically, any endeavor to please Krishna is yajna. Okay. Any act performed to bring satisfaction to the Lord, pleasing the Lord is yajna. And the best form of yajna is, which is the best form of yajna? Shivani Mataji.
प्रभु जी आपने बताया था कि बेस्ट फॉर्म ऑफ यज्ञ इज चैंटिंग द होली नेम.
Chanting the holy name. Okay. So in Kali Yuga, the best form of yajna is chanting of the holy name. So chanting of the holy name pleases the Lord the most. Okay. Yes, Akant Prabhu, you want to say something?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I was saying the same thing. I think the best form of yajna is chanting the holy name, and what I had captured was a karma which doesn't lead to any bondage, which is offered to Krishna, is also the best form of yajna.
Okay, that is yajna when it is offered. When we, what do you call, do anything, any act, any karma for the pleasure of Krishna, simplistically is called yajna. When you offer, flower, you don't smell the flower, but offer to Krishna. You deny your senses the pleasure of having fragrance of flower, but you offer it to Krishna. It is yajna. You cook food, you don't eat it immediately. You offer it to the Lord. You deny your senses, you sacrifice, and then to please Krishna is called yajna. Okay. Now, in the first section, now, what we are going to discuss today is very, very important, but little technical subject matter, but very important to know. Okay, so request all of you to be a little more attentive. So, in the first section, which is up to verse number 8, 3.1 to 3.8, Krishna was emphasizing performing Nishkam Karma Yoga is better than renunciation. Correct? Yeah? Being situated in one's own, position of gunas and performing activities accordingly without attachment to the result. Isn't it? That is better than renouncing the karma. Because that purifies our consciousness. Right? So performing karma without attachment is called Nishkam, karma yoga. Now when you bring Krishna into it, it's called Nishkam karma, performing karma without attachment. But when you bring Krishna, which is the verse we did in the last week, verse number 9, that you offer this result which you are detached to Krishna, it becomes Nishkam karma yoga. Now is yoga happening. Yoga means connecting the fruit of your action with Krishna. That becomes yajna. Okay, so you don't try to enjoy it. You deny your senses in terms of using the result for your sense gratification, but you offer it, use it for the pleasure of Krishna. Now, there are varieties of yoga systems explained in Bhagavad Gita. Okay. And we also hear so many things, karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyan yoga, ashtanga yoga, bhakti yoga, and so many types of yoga systems we hear. And Krishna does talk about all of them in Bhagavad Gita. So primarily, first six chapters largely predominantly talk about Nishkam Karma Yoga. Okay. In fact, within sixth chapter, the sixth chapter talk about Dhyan Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga also. And the next sixth chapter, which is chapter number 7 up till 12, focuses more on Bhakti Yoga. And last 6 chapters out of 18 chapters, which is 13 to 18, largely talks about Gyan Yoga. So Bhakti Yoga is sandwiched between, Karma Yoga and Gyan Yoga. So like when you eat, sandwich, the best part is sandwiched between two breads, isn't it? So two bread pieces are like Karma Yoga and, Gyan Yoga, and the best butter or the jam is, within the two bread pieces is called Bhakti Yoga. Now, how does it start? Okay, this is, generally referred in terms of yoga ladder. How one elevates one's consciousness gradually from animalistic life to a devotee life. So the bottom most in the yoga ladder is animal or human beings with animalistic propensities. Okay. So now in this you have freedom. In case you don't understand in between, you can raise your hand and stop me. Otherwise, if you don't understand this, then you can't understand the next ones like this. Okay, so somewhere if you feel finding difficult to understand, you can stop me. Ladda family, where are everyone else? I can see only Satyanarayana Prabhuji. Baki log kahan hai Prabhuji? Acha, okay, hiding behind the camera. Okay. Okay. Please come in front. Please come in front, everyone. Chitra Mata ji, Siddharth Prabhu, kahan hai sab log? They are absconding now most of the times. Huh? Okay, he came running now, see? Come in front, Prabhuji. Okay, Chitra Mata ji, where is she? Your better half, Siddharth Prabhu. Okay. So, so what is yoga ladder? Yoga ladder, as I mentioned, it is hierarchy of our consciousness, simplistically. Okay. While technically we may call this anyone, anything. Okay. But simplistically, at different levels, it defines the hierarchy of our consciousness, right? The most messed up consciousness is animalistic consciousness, and the most elevated consciousness is the consciousness of a devotee. Okay. The most, undeveloped, you can say, or contaminated, you can say, not evolved consciousness is the bottommost animalistic consciousness, and the topmost consciousness is of a devotee. Pure consciousness, not contaminated with material desires. I'm going to share a few slides to maybe illustrate or explain this yoga ladder. Just one sec, please. Okay, so on the top, you can see Karma Kanda. In fact, before Karma Kanda, it is animal life. Okay, so what is animal life? When animals are primarily busy doing 4 things: Ahar, Nidra, Bhai, Maithunam Cha. Means they're busy arranging their food. Nidra, sleeping, taking rest. Bhai, trying to defend themselves, protect themselves from external threats. And Maithunam Cha, and having entertainment in the form of uniting with opposite sex. Okay, that is animalistic life. Correct? Please make notes. Please develop, habit of making notes. Show your creativity in making notes so that, it becomes easy to revise and, and remember everything. Otherwise you might forget after some time. So it could be animals, four-legged animals, right? Four-legged animals, or it could be two-legged human beings, living a life of an animal. Now tell me, I'm asking question, what percentage of population is living animalistic life? And you can write something in the chat box quickly. Give me your guesses. What portion of population is actually at the bottommost of in terms of consciousness, living an animalistic life? Or only busy. The aim of life is simply to enjoy. Don't write to me only, write to everybody. Okay, let it be to everyone. Right? So the only aim of life is to enjoy. How to eat better, how to have better shelter, better house, or how to defend, protect ourselves from external threats, or have sex and enjoy. Okay. You're writing to me only, is it? You can't write to everyone. Chat box is not open to everybody. Wait, just hold on. Just hold on. My mistake. Sometimes I disable chat box. Just hold on. Where is chat box? I don't know how to now activate. Okay, so some people are saying more than 95%, some saying most of us. Nidhi Mada is very, kind to the human society, saying 70%, somebody saying 90%, somebody saying mostly all of us. Okay, so actually most part of population, and I will not be exaggerating saying when I say it's 99.9% people fall in this category, who are simply living like animals. They take birth, live life like animals, and die like animals. Right? And again come back in some degraded body to live another degraded life. So that is, the lowest, consciousness, wherein one cannot think about self-realization because they are not equipped with that level of intelligence. But still, devotional life is independent of external body. Even there are exceptional cases of animals getting self-realized. Right? For example, Gajendra Moksha pastime, if you hear, Hanumanji is an animal, but most realized, self-realized soul. So there are examples, very few examples, but primarily, generally in Kali Yuga, we can say animals are not really self-realized or living a life of, only busy with eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. Now, when one is doing sense gratifications unrestrictedly, he's animal or she's animal. Okay. But when one does sense gratification or enjoys senses in a regulated manner, according to scriptures, earlier it was illegal enjoyment, now it becomes legal enjoyment. Okay. For example, there are many provisions or in the Shastras, in the Karma Kanda section of Vedas, we suggest various types of austerities, penances, fast to attain some material benefit, isn't it? Sometimes you go to a Pandit ji and you tell him that, my business is not making profit. Please suggest something. And he'll say, okay, perform this yajna. And he'll say, perform this yajna, your business will start delivering results. So it is sense enjoyment, but, based on some faith in some higher up, some authority. That authority can bring a change if I satisfy him. From atheist, I am gradually turning into, a theist. Building some faith in the Vedas that, okay, Vedas is telling me to do this, to attain this, so let me follow this. So they develop some level of submission or surrender to some higher authority. Okay, so that is the purpose of Karma Kanda, to start gradually turning, atheistic people into theistic people. Gradual elevation of consciousness. So when one performs, comes to the platform of Karma Kanda, his sense gratification becomes regulated, and the purpose, as I mentioned, mass, a general mass of people are in the category of animalistic, propensities. So purpose of Karma Kanda is to, make them perform some religious activity, even for sense gratification, but they come onto the platform of following some section of religion and develop some faith to some higher authority. Okay, this is Karma Kanda. So a lot of Brahmans, Pandits are involved in this activity. You go to them with some problem, they'll tell you, do this, do this, do this. Ye yak karo, ye yak karo, ye yak karo. Right? Now, what is the benefit of Karma Kanda? Because it is regulated enjoyment, it brings some level of purification. Okay, gradually, his heart starts getting purified. Why? Because he is following some authority now. Earlier it was unrestricted. Okay, now he is following some authority. Okay, and he develops some faith or submission to Vedas or our scriptures and higher authority. And when he sees that, oh yes, by performing this yajna, I getting some material benefit, his faith gradually builds up. He starts going again and again to Brahmana. Now I want to get married. Please help me perform some yajna so that I get a beautiful girl. I get a handsome boy. Isn't it? When Pandit suggests something, or you do this fasting, and then, Shiva will be pleased and give you some beautiful wife or beautiful husband. Okay, and if he has to learn about these yajnas, he has to associate with Brahmanas, he has to go to Brahmanas. So he starts associating, he starts coming in touch with, intelligent class of people called Brahmanas. Okay. So this is Karma Kanda. This is still not spiritual, mind you. This is still material. Okay, following religion for material benefit. But because he is following Krishna's system made by Krishna or higher authority, his consciousness is gradually getting elevated. And when he is trying to enjoy material benefits following these shastras, and gradually he sees the futility of material life, because any enjoyment he seeks, he finds it temporary. Again he has to go. Again he gets some enjoyment, it is temporary. So we know the nature of all material enjoyment. It is all temporary. For example, there was one businessman who was, atheist. He never used to believe in God, and he his business was not doing well, and somebody suggested him, you go to this Pandit, he might suggest you some, method how to turn around your business. He went to some Brahmana unwillingly, because when you are stressed out, you would like to take any route. You want to just come out of the problem, isn't it? So sometimes these situations, these difficult times in life are auspicious, most auspicious for us, because they make us turn towards people who can actually help us start our journey of self-realization, isn't it? So from that perspective, such difficult times in life, such miseries in life, actually they turn out to be their blessings in disguise. Okay, so in any miserable time, we should see that it's a great opportunity to take even deeper shelter of Krishna, go even more closer to the Supreme Lord, rather than going away from Supreme Lord. So I was talking with a businessman. He went to that Pandit, and Pandit suggested him to perform some yajna. And then after a month, 2 months, he started seeing results. He started seeing his business was turning profits now, which was making losses earlier. He felt very happy. Oh, this works. And then the businessman had to, get married. So he went to again the Pandit. Pandit ji, बताइए ना, मुझे शादी करनी है. आप कुछ बताइए कि मुझे अच्छी लड़की मिल जाए, अच्छे खानदान से मिल जाए, पढ़ी लिखी मिल जाए, खूबसूरत लड़की हो. बोला ठीक है, एक यज्ञ और कराते हैं. तो उसने यज्ञ और कराया, and then he performed yajna. He actually got beautiful wife from well-to-do family, and then his faith level again went up. So he started following more and more scriptures to get material benefit. So it's still Karam Kanda stage. And then he again went, 5 साल हो गए, बच्चा नहीं हुआ है, तो कुछ बताइए क्या करना चाहिए. तो उन्होंने बताया, बच्चा भी हो गया. So now it's happy family, business doing well, got beautiful wife, got children. Now he thought, now, wow, I achieved everything with the help of Shastras. And then one day, his wife and children were going on the road, in a car, and they met with an accident and all of them died. And then he realized, oh, this happiness is temporary. Anytime, anything can be snatched in a moment. And that is the nature of this material world. Right? So no kind of happiness is permanent. So when one goes through these experiences again and again, he actually understands, he realizes, he analyzes, actually there is nothing permanent in this life. So he develops vairagya or detachment from this material world. And then he comes to the platform of Sakam Karma Yoga. Sakam Karma Yoga, the yoga gets added here. He actually starts turning towards Krishna. And what does he do? We'll discuss about it. So because yoga is added, he's actually trying to connect with the Lord. His spiritual life begins from here. Okay. Wherein he starts seeking purification of heart. Earlier he was seeking material benefits. Now he is actually seeking purification of heart. Right? He's trying to renounce the fruits of his labor. He's trying to detach himself from the results. But leaving material desires is not so easy. So he's attached at the same time. Attached at the same time, trying to detach from desires. So what he does is, whatever money he's making, large part of the money he'll spend on his sense gratification. Maybe a little bit he'll use it for Krishna's service. Like many of us, we fall in this category, isn't it? Okay, ठीक है, 1 लाख तनख्वाह मिली, उसमें से 1000 रुपया दे दिया मंदिर में या कहीं सेवा में लगा दिया, right? So there is some detachment because I was able to take out 1000 rupees from my pocket, right, to serve Krishna. Some detachment, but still attached with a lot of material desires, wherein I'm using rest of my income for sense gratification, isn't it? So it is the beginning of Karma Yoga, you can say. Sakam. Karma Yoga, but with lot of material desires. Okay, for example, somebody, does this business of making some bags. Okay, and he sees that devotees are going for book distribution, they don't have any bag to carry books. So he suggests temple authorities, can I stitch some bag for you so that you can carry these books? And they're very happy. Oh, he's going to serve, he's going to help us. He says, normally I sell this bag for 50 rupees in the market. For temple, I'll give you 30 rupees. Okay. So he announces 20 rupees, but he still wants to make profit out of, the service he's doing. Isn't it? So this is Sakam Karma Yoga. So like this, there can be many activities, when we help or serve Krishna or his devotees, at the same time maintain some desires. Okay? Is that clear? So what, happens in Sakam Karma Yoga, your purification continues. Yeah, because now you have started connecting with Lord. So 20 rupees he connected with the Lord, Krishna himself, through his service, isn't it? While he had some desire to make money also out of temple. So this is Sakam Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga with a lot of desires. Third is called, so his consciousness is now purified, from the level he was in Karma Kanda section. Okay, so you see, gradually from animalistic life to Karma Kanda, consciousness is gradually purified. From Karma Kanda to Sakam Karma Yoga, consciousness is further getting elevated. That is the purpose of Vedas. Vedas have all these sections to gradually bring masses of people into spiritual life. Okay. Third is called Nishkam Karma Yoga. Now he doesn't have attachment to the results, but he has attachment to the activity he is doing. So he does whatever he likes, but not attached to the result. He's attached to the activity because he likes doing it, but offers the result to Krishna. So his understanding, spirituality as a goal of life deepens. His conviction for a spiritual life goes up significantly. Right? He gives up attachment to the fruits of work, but attached to the work. For example, you are a great cook. Okay. And you see there's a festival coming up in the temple, a lot of cooking required. You go and offer to temple authorities, can I cook for this festival? And I will not charge anything. I'll do it, as a service. They say, yeah, that's wonderful. Because for festival, we'll get thousands of devotees who will cook otherwise. And so they give you this seva of, cooking food for the festival, prasadam for the festival. So he cooks. He even forgets eating, because he's cooking, for the pleasure of the Lord. He doesn't even eat himself. He doesn't want any, appreciation also. Oh, I did cooking, so I should be recognized, I should be appreciated publicly. So he's detached from the results. But somebody asked him, thank you for your cooking. Now there's some utensils lying, can you please clean them also? He said, no, I can do only cooking. Please tell somebody else to clean the utensils. So his service is function of his liking, not function of liking of Krishna or liking of other devotees. So he wants to serve in his own way, what he likes. This is Nishkam Karma Yoga. Yoga, but attachment to karma exists, activity exists, but he is detached from the result of that activity. Now he has further progressed. Yes or no? From animalistic life, and now his consciousness is evolved significantly. Yes or no? Significant elevation in his or purification of his consciousness. And then comes Gyan Yoga, wherein his knowledge about matter and spirit increases. He understands the nature of this material world. Now, see, even in Karma Yoga, he's still not performing, or we can say Nishkam Karma is based on some Gyan, but Gyan fully manifests, at Gyan Yoga stage, wherein he understands the difference between matter and spirit. He starts understanding that I have a body which is temporary, made up of matter, but there is a spirit soul inside this. Okay. So there is one, a detachment which manifests out of this knowledge that I am not this body, but I am a, what do you call, spirit soul. This is called jnana. When using this knowledge, he starts performing action based on spirit soul, then it becomes yoga. Okay. Otherwise, it is only a jnana. For example, all these scientists, they're all busy, working on matter. At the same time, they're also trying to find out what is that, higher authority or higher, truth, which is making everybody move around, isn't it? For example, Darwin's theory, Darwin's theory is a, typical material manifestation, but they also attempting to go to different planets, for example, to seek higher truth, So there is some desire, but they're not using that knowledge to for self-realization. They're doing it just a matter of research, just to study, isn't it? Or they are devotees of matter, you can say, not of Krishna. They are serving matter. They're not serving Krishna. Okay. So there's a lot of philosophical inquiry, at Gyan stage. And at this stage, they get detached from both action and fruits of action. They realize that every activity I do is going to bind me, so let me not perform any activity only. They try to run away from action. They renounce everything. Okay. So in Sakam Karma Yoga, there is attachment to both activity and the fruits. He starts the journey of detachment. In Nishkam Karma Yoga, there is no attachment to the fruits, but there is attachment to the karma or activity. In Gyan Yoga, there is no attachment to karma nor the fruits of karma. So both he is detached from. Okay, making sense? Because this detachment is based on his knowledge about matter and spirit. Okay. So he finds, everything is temporary. Why spend time, energy, and waste this life running after something is temporary? This is Gyan Yoga. And when this Gyan Yogi renounces activity, renounces fruits, and goes to a secluded place, and he starts meditating on the higher truth inside him, Paramatma, he comes to a platform of Ashtanga Yoga. Okay? You see a lot of people meditating. Now, Kali Yuga is not possible, but we hear in Satyuga, people used to meditate for thousands of years. They are trying to meditate on Paramatma sitting inside their heart. So it is called Ashtanga. It is an 8-step process. That's why it's called Ashtanga Yoga. The first one is Yama, second is Niyama, third is Asana, fourth one is Pranayam, fifth is Pratyahar, sixth is Dharana, seventh is Dhyan, eighth is Samadhi. 8-step process, that's why it's called Ashtanga Yoga. Okay, what is Yama? Things not to be done, don'ts. Okay, for example, no sex in Ashtanga Yoga, no sense enjoyment in Ashtanga Yoga. Okay, then Niyama, do's. First don'ts, then do's. Get up early. Okay, so there are some things which they are supposed to do. So yam niyam means do's and don'ts. And then comes asana. Asana is basically for sense control, different bodily postures. Actually, we think these, asanas or whatever exercise we do, this is, meditation or yoga. It's not yoga. It's simply one part of Ashtanga yoga process to control senses. That is not yoga in itself. Okay, so the very understanding of, yoga is wrong in general masses of people. So just, doing Vrajasana or Shishasana is not yoga. It is only asana to control one's senses. And then comes pranayama, you control different airs inside the body. Then comes pratyahara, you control your mind. Then comes dharana. When your senses are controlled, mind is controlled, then you start meditating on the form, Paramatma, inside your heart. Okay? Now, this is a meditation on the full form of Krishna, or not Krishna, Paramatma, inside the heart. And then when it becomes more intense, more deeper, when you start meditating on different limbs of Chaturbhuji Paramatma inside the heart, it is called dhyana. When it becomes even more intense and one is completely isolated from the external environment, fully absorbed in meditating on the different limbs of Paramatma inside, it is called samadhi. Okay? So in this, one enjoys spiritual bliss in Shanta Rasa mode. He simply is feeling blissful, but just by looking at Chaturbhuji Vishnu inside his heart. There is no service. That's why it's called Shantaras. Okay? Neutrality. No action. Okay? So when Jnana Yoga elevates to the point of meditation, it is called Ashtanga Yoga. Now, what is Bhakti Yoga? Bhakti Yoga means when directly we start engaging in the service of Krishna. When there is a practical service, not only I am seeing Krishna and just feeling blissful, no, I am serving him with all my senses as a reflection of my love, my relationship. So I am living that relationship with Krishna. Jivera Sarupe Hoye, Nitya Krishna Das. When I'm living my constitutional position and serving him practically, it becomes Bhakti Yoga. The meaning of Bhakti is loving devotional service. Service. It is not a sentiment. It is not inertia. Bhakti Yoga is not inertia. Just sit idle and do some activity. It's actual service of Krishna in different ways, through different senses, through mind, through intelligence. Now, the best part of Bhakti Yoga is one can attain Bhakti Yoga at any stage, at any, at any level of consciousness. There is a gradual process of purification from animalistic life to Karma Kand to Sakam Karma Yoga to Nishkam, Gyan, Ashtang, and then Bhakti. Not every Ashtang yogi will become Bhakti yogi. Okay? Not every yogi will become Bhakta. No. Only some of them who develop love and affection while looking at, the four-handed form of Vishnu, he can transcend and become a Bhakti yogi. Otherwise, they remain at that level. Paramatma realization. Okay. Any questions so far? It was a little technical. I hope I was able to communicate properly. Just hold on. Yes, Shivani Mataji.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी। प्रभु जी, मेरा प्रश्न ये है कि अभी जो दुनिया में, मतलब इस दुनिया में जितने भी लोग हैं, वो कर्म कांड सबसे ज्यादा करते हैं, जितना मैं अभी तक समझ पाई हूँ। कर्म कांड से ऊपर सोच नहीं सकते या जा नहीं सकते, तो फिर ये जो आपने अभी लेटर बताया, इसको कैसे हम लोग चढ़ सकते हैं?
So all of this doesn't happen.
क्योंकि या तो
All of that doesn't happen in one life. All of this may not happen in one life. That, you know, one has become Karm Kandi, then after 5-10 years he become, you know, what do you call, Sakam Karm Yogi, after 2 years. Oh, it may take many, many years, many, many lifetimes to progress. Okay, so it's a very, it's a assured route for sure, but it's a very long route. मान लो आपको 100 माले की बिल्डिंग है, 100-story building, and then you have to climb stairs and go to the top of the floor, top of the 100th floor. It is your, you know, yoga ladder, gradual elevation. Now, what is the turning point? I'm going to talk to you in 2 minutes. What can transform this journey completely? Nidhi Mata, you had some question. Somehow I've got some network problem. Radhe, class शुरू हो गया आपका? 10:30 तो हो गया. I am facing some network issue. Just hold on. Yes, Nidhi Mataji.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी.
हाँ जी.
प्रभु जी, आपने बताया कि ज्ञान योगा में जो है whoever is in ज्ञान योगा, they are detached from action and fruit of action, and you gave example of scientist. So
Scientist is Jnani, not Jnana Yogi.
Okay.
For example, some different Mayavadi sannyasis, they are, you know, not Maya sannyasis, Brahmavadis, you can say, who renounce and they want to merge with, you know, Brahman part of the supreme reality. You understand Brahman, no? Brahman realization. They want to merge. They are Jnana Yogis. So they realize Krishna, but in his lowest form, in terms of Brahman realization, not Paramatma or Bhagavan realization. Okay.
One more question is there, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, in Bhakti Yoga, you said that one can attain Bhakti Yoga at any stage of consciousness.
I'm coming
what
to
does that mean?
I'm coming to that. Just wait for 2 minutes. Yes, ma'am.
Prabhuji, I missed out this. I mean, Jnana Yoga. Can you kindly explain it once again with the example? Because at the time I was jotting down the presentation, so I missed out.
Which one?
Jnana Yoga.
Gyan Yoga. It's pronounced like Gyan Yoga. Now, what is Gyan Yoga? Wherein one attains knowledge of difference between matter and spirit. So he understands that everything in this material world is temporary, right? So he then detaches himself not only from fruits of action, but from the action itself. सब कुछ temporary है तो why spend energy? He renounces everything. He becomes a sannyasi. He becomes a renunciate. Okay? And then studies Vedas even more deeper. His focus is only on theoretical understanding, no practical service.
Okay, and Ashtanga Yoga?
Ashtanga Yoga means when one has understood the higher reality and he starts meditating on the supreme, you know, in the form of Paramatma in his heart. This is called Ashtanga Yoga, and the process to perform this is called Ashtanga. It is an 8-step process from, you know, Yama to Samadhi. This is Ashtanga Yoga. So there are different, just hold on, there are different levels of realizations. For example, at Gyan Yoga level, If you remember, I discussed about that 3 features: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan. Remember? Do you remember? Brahman is is like effulgence coming out of the body of Krishna. And then Paramatma is a partial expansion of Krishna sitting in the heart of every living entity. And Bhagwan is the original two-handed form of Krishna. Now, people who are at Gyan Yoga level, they can only realize Brahman part. They can't go beyond. Okay? People who are at Ashtanga Yoga, they can realize Paramatma part, partial expansion of Krishna. But only Bhakti Yogi can realize Krishna himself. For example, how to explain this? Let's say Narendra Modi is the Prime Minister of this country. Correct? Narendra Modi can be realized, is all pervaded throughout India in the form of his policies, his rules, his regulations. Correct? Isn't it? It is a norm or some law. Law is nothing but a manifestation of Narendra Modi. Impersonal form of Narendra Modi. Correct? Isn't it? Which you can realize even in Udaipur. Correct? This is impersonal realization of Narendra Modi. Realizing his policies, his norms, his laws, and all that. Now, for example, there is a webinar by Narendra Modi on Corona. Okay, you are attending that, you get to hear something about from Narendra Modi, right? There is some personalization, but it is not complete personalization because it is still not Narendra Modi himself, simply hearing him, isn't it? Then you get an opportunity sometime to go to the house of Narendra Modi. You go to the house, you meet Narendra Modi, you meet his wife, you meet his, children if he has. He is not married. I'm just making a hypothetical example. You meet his family members, and you become one of them. You start interacting at a very intimate level with Narendra Modi because you are interacting with him. You are playing with his children or, interacting with his wife. This is Bhagavan realization. When you become part of Krishna's confidential devotees and you reciprocate with Krishna directly. This is Bhagavan realization. Only a devotee can reach this level of realization. Not Gyan Yogi or Ashtanga Yogi. They also realize some, impersonal feature of Narendra Modi or maybe some hearing Narendra Modi. But is that complete realization of Narendra Modi? No. Complete realization is when you go and meet him, interact with him, understand his family, know Narendra Modi more in detail, isn't it? This is a very crude example to make you understand what are these different levels of realization. And only Bhaktaha, only devotee can go to the extent of realizing Krishna or Narendra Modi, for example, in our analogy. So who can go to Krishna Lok and participate in Krishna's pastimes? Only devotee. Okay? Who is actually serving Krishna, practically. For example, if you're hearing Narendra Modi sitting at a distance, you're not hearing. Only in passive mode you're hearing what Narendra Modi is saying. That's it. There's no direct service involved. And his policies are impersonal feature of Narendra Modi, which Gyanis want to merge and become one with Supreme Lord. Okay. Yes, Akant.
Prabhuji, just
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
Go ahead, Mayank Prabhu.
Prabhuji, where do you place the ISKCON leaders? Ashtanga Yoga or Bhakti Yoga?
On is purely Bhakti Yoga.
Okay.
Pure, because we only engage all our senses in the service of Krishna. Now we'll wonder how even the most rotten people come to Krishna consciousness. They have not gone through, Karam Kand or Karam Yoga or Gyan Yoga. How are they able to perform Bhakti Yoga? That is the beauty of Bhakti Yoga. I'm going to explain. Just give me 2 minutes. Any questions so far? Akant Prabhu, yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, ये chapter 2, in the chapter 2, I think Krishna, when he gave this gyan to Arjuna, I think all of this chapter 2 and even beginning of chapter 3 was more around Nishkam Karma Yoga.
Correct.
Right? Whereby he says you cannot run away from karma. You have to do the karma, but it has to be nishkam. There should not be any attachment to the results of the karma. I think that is what we understood. Whereas in Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga, what we are saying is we go beyond karma and we actually don't do karma, right? So aren't these counter to each other?
No, because as I mentioned earlier, Gyan Yoga is superior to Karma Yoga in terms of consciousness. Okay, but not everybody can renounce. So Krishna said, at your position, Karma Yoga is better than Gyan Yoga because you cannot renounce everything. Your heart is still not pure that you can, do spirituality the whole day. So better you perform karma and, give your results to Krishna. You do karma yoga. For you, karma yoga is better than, for example, for different patients, you'll give different doses, isn't it? Similarly, the karma yoga dose is for those people who have a lot of material desires. They can't renounce everything. As I mentioned the other day, if I tell you, okay, now you want to become spiritualist, leave your job. Will you do it? You will leave the class, not leave the job. Yes or no?
Yeah.
So that's why Krishna said, you don't have to leave everything. Just leave the mentality of enjoying. Don't leave your karma. Just leave the mentality of enjoying or attachment to the results. That is the beginning of spiritual life. But Gyan Yoga level, his knowledge is completely manifested in terms of what is, temporary, what do you call, permanent, eternal. On that level, one can renounce, not before that. So, for example, ISKCON, there are a lot of enunciate, a lot of sannyasis, but they are given sannyas order after a lot of evaluation. Whether does he carry any material desires still, what kind of lifestyle he has, what kind of desires he has. Only after so much evaluation he is given danda, sannyas danda. Not everyone. So Gyan Yoga is superior to Karma Yoga, but it cannot be given to a person who is still attached to a lot of material desires. Isn't it? So question is, at what level which is better? So at householder level, who have a lot of material desires, Karma Yoga is better than Jnana Yoga. Okay. That's the point Krishna was making to Arjuna.
Okay.
Yes, Nidhi Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, what if a person is not having any material desire, but still that person is having lots of responsibilities, like उसके बच्चे हैं, माता पिता हैं, बूढ़े माता पिता हैं, तो वैसे इंसान के क्या करना चाहिए?
That's where Varnashram dharma comes. Brahmachari, Grahast, Vanaparast, and Sannyas. So Sannyas is the fourth order, and that is only for males, not for females. Okay? Females have to be always under the protection, either of father when they're not married, or husband when married, or under the protection of sons when they're old. Sannyas order is not meant for females, it's meant for males. Only Purusha, not for streets. So Purusha, when they have fulfilled all their family liabilities in Grahastha life, then first they take Vanaprastha. Right? And then they go to the highest order called sannyasis, not abruptly.
But प्रभु जी फिर एक फीमेल कैसे लिबरेट होगी प्रभु जी?
By serving her husband, who is a Krishna devotee. Or directly also, of course. So when husband is devotee and female is helping her husband, so she also gets, a result of husband's devotional life. Okay. So Krishna is the maid servant of, or husband is the maid servant of Krishna, and wife is the maid servant of husband who is serving Krishna. Okay, that's how to get. That is our Vedic system. That is not the case today, because you may have wife who's a wonderful devotee and husband has no inclination to Krishna. Isn't it?
So
There are
in
many
that case, Prabhuji, what?
then kid, you directly
if
Krishna will
how
take you, don't worry. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Huh.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna can, deviate norms from Kali Yuga. Krishna is very compassionate. Okay. Okay, so let's move ahead if there are no more questions. Now, let's see. There are 3 forms of yoga ladders. One is extended yoga ladder, which is a gradual elevation. On the right hand side, you can see. Okay. This is extended yoga, the normal, long, journey to become Krishna conscious. We start from animalistic life, then karma kanda, then sakam karma yoga, then nishkam karma yoga, then gyan yoga, ashtang yoga, then bhakti yoga. If, as I said, all jnanis will not go to ashtang yoga system, all ashtang will not go to bhakti yoga. Maybe handful of them, okay, might go to the next level. So in this yoga system, there is no guarantee that one will reach bhakti yoga. Okay, there is no guarantee in the gradual elevation, and it is all based on one's individual efforts, one's capability. So this is not the recommended process. But this is for masses who do not take shelter of Krishna directly, but they need to be elevated gradually. So this is for them. Okay. Now, what brings excitement in this ladder system? Second is called progressive ladder, yoga ladder, wherein one can attain pure bhakti at any level if he comes in touch with a pure devotee of Krishna. That is the turning point. Suppose he is at Sakam Karma Yoga or Nishkam Karma Yoga, and he comes in touch with the pure devotee, and pure devotee engages him in the direct service of Krishna, then he can transcend Gyan Yoga, he can transcend Ashtang Yoga and directly go to the platform of pure devotion. So it is the entry of a pure devotee in our life, and he wishes that we become devotee. That transforms the game completely. It is the mercy of devotee of Krishna who can, transcend these so many stages in yoga ladder. It doesn't remain gradual, it speeds up, it becomes progressive. But another feature of bhakti yoga is even one may be in animalistic life and he gets association of pure devotee. His journey of pure devotion starts. He doesn't have to go through karma kanda. He doesn't have to go through sakam karma yoga. He doesn't have to go through nishkam. That exemplifies the association of devotees. When we associate with devotees, our process of elevation of consciousness becomes exponential, not gradual. What is our qualification? Just imagine. What is our qualification to chant the holy name of Supreme Lord? No qualification. It is the mercy of some devotee that we are able to chant his name. What is our qualification to offer food to the Supreme Lord, a Lord to whom, millions of Lakshmis are serving? Goddess of fortune serving. What is our qualification to serve? We are serving just because of the mercy of some devotee, Prabhupada. Because Prabhupada wanted we become devotees, we are able to chant Krishna's name, we are able to serve Krishna through different ways, we are able to engage our senses in service of Krishna in different ways. This is the power of association of a devotee. For example, in ISKCON, what do? We don't do anything. We simply engage the senses of one's, a devotee in the service of Krishna. We'll tell you to chant. We engage your tongue in the service of Krishna. We tell you to chant attentively. So we tell you to basically engage your mind in the service of Krishna. We'll tell you to offer food and eat. We engage your body in the service of Krishna, your hands in service of Krishna. We'll tell you, okay, make a garland, and make Krishna wear the garland you have made. So we make your, hands in the service of Krishna. We tell you to read Gita, Bhagavatam. We engage your intelligence in the service of Krishna. Isn't it? We'll tell you, okay, let's go to temple. Let's go to Vrindavan Dham. We engage your legs in the service of Krishna. So practically, we'll give you some flowers to smell, which are offered to Krishna. We, engage your nostrils in service of Krishna. We'll ask you to hear Krishna Katha every day. We engage your ears in service of Krishna. We'll tell you, go and preach, tell somebody and inspire somebody to, chant the holy name. We engage your tongue in the service of Krishna. So the purpose of, we'll tell you to take darshan of Krishna every day. And we engage your eyes in service of Krishna. So the purpose of a devotee who is, ahetuki kripa, causeless mercy. There is no cause for this. ऐसा नहीं कि हमने बहुत कर्म कर दिए इसलिए कोई भक्त हमारे जीवन में आ गया. It's a causeless mercy without any cause that we got association devotee and he inspired us, to take up this devotional life. And this mercy is making us do all of. We are not qualified to do. It's only some devotees' mercy we're able to perform these devotional activities. We must appreciate. So we should not feel proud of what we are doing. किसने दिया है इसलिए हम कर रहे हैं. It is not our qualification. It is the mercy. It's purely based on mercy. That's why Krishna consciousness teaches us to depend upon Krishna. Depend upon his mercy, not on our ability to please Krishna. We may do wonderful activities, but for results, we depend on Krishna, not on our ability. So how is the consciousness elevated from animalistic life to a devotee's life? In animalistic life, the consciousness is a consciousness of enjoyment, exploitation. How to enjoy using things, using people around us. It could be family members. This is animalistic life. How do I enjoy my wife? How do I enjoy my husband? This is animalistic life. But a devotee's consciousness, the purified consciousness, is transformed from exploitation to service. How do I serve my wife and help her becoming Krishna consciousness? How do I serve my neighbor and help him become Krishna conscious? How do I serve this ant by chanting the holy name? So this ant also hears the holy name. It is no more exploitation. It is no more selfish sense gratification. It is pure attitude to serve. Which is why serve? Because that is the constitutional position of a soul. Jivere Swarupe hoye nityer Krishner das. The purpose of devotional life is to shift one consciousness from enjoyment, selfish enjoyment or exploitation to selfless service. selfish enjoyment, exploitation to selfless service. This is the purpose of devotional life. This is the purpose of different austerities we perform. This is the purpose of chanting. This is the purpose of reading. This is the purpose of eating prasadam offered to Krishna. That we give up this mentality of sense enjoyment or material enjoyment, and only work towards working for the pleasure of Krishna. So in Bhakti Yoga, one is not even attached to activity like Nishkam Karma Yoga. He will do activity what Krishna likes or what his guru likes, what his senior like, not what he likes. So he gives up attachment to the activity also. This is pure devotional service. I will do what Krishna wants me to do. I will do what my guru wants me to do. This is a complete sense of surrender. Okay? When one is purified in terms of consciousness. So this is yoga. This is elevator. This is elevator. A devotee comes in life and we transcend all the steps. We sit in the elevator along with the devotee and reach the top floor of the building. Okay? Make sense? So devotee is desireless and materialist is full of desires, material desires. And Prabhupada has written a very nice purport, in one of Chaitanya verse. Maybe Nidhi Mata, you can read this and everybody can hear it attentively.
Shall I read, Prabhuji?
Yes.
Actually, as
Srila Prabhupada.
Srila Prabhupada explains in his purport to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela, only a devotee can become nishkama, desireless. If one understands Krishna, he immediately becomes desireless, nishkam, because a Krishna Bhakta knows that his friend and protector in all the respect is Krishna, who is able to do anything for his devotee. Krishna says, Kwante pratijanahi name bhaktyo prashyati, O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. Since Krishna gives his assurance, the devotee lives in Krishna and has no desire for personal benefit. The background for the devotee is the all-good himself. Why should the devotee aspire for something good for himself? His only business is to please the Supreme by rendering service as much as possible. A Krishna Bhakta has no desire for his own personal benefit. He is completely protected by Supreme Acharya
Avashya Rakshibe
Avashya
Krishna Vishwas Palan. Yani Krishna will protect me always.
Bhakti Vinoda
Thakur.
Thakur says he is desireless because Krishna will give him protection in all the circumstances. It is not that he expects any assistance from Krishna. He simply depends on Krishna just as a child depends on his parents. The child does not know how to expect service from his parents, but he is always protected nevertheless. This is called Nishkam, desirelessness.
Okay. So that brings end of this session. It's very important, section to understand the power of devotional life and how it is far more superior to any other yoga system. The most quickest. Prabhupada said, if you are following, what I said sincerely, one can go to the Supreme Lord within this life itself. That is the kind of guarantee Prabhupada gives. So it all boils down to how much sincere we are in terms of following these instructions of Prabhupada. Was it understandable? It was little technical, little difficult, but let me just reconfirm. Were you able to follow easily? Praful Prabhuji, समझ आया आपको? Okay. So any question or any comment? Amangsha Mataji, Ishita Mataji, Gaurav Prabhu, I hope you're there. Anita Mataji, Varun, Renu Mataji, Jagdish Prabhu. I hope you're there behind the curtain and not miss this. Okay. Any comment from anyone? Yes, Nidhi Mataji.
Prabhuji, in today's world, after seeing everything like so much sin, so much this thing desire, one can मतलब मैंने जो आज pick up किया is that जो एक fear था कि we have to do obviously austerity we have to do, but we have to do take many lifetimes, so that then only we can be liberated. But that concept, that myth or something, or जो भी कहो Prabhuji, that got eradicated today, because what I learned today कि we can attain liberation, we can, by surrendering to Krishna unconditionally, not with any desire. After that, it's his mercy whether he'll liberate or
I'll just correct you here. A devotee does not seek liberation. As you use
sorry,
the term
Prabhuji, that's what.
liberation, be careful.
Yeah.
Devotee
Yeah.
seeks service.
Service. Ji,
Then only it is
Prabhuji.
devotion.
Yeah, unconditional love for Krishna. So bhakti yoga, bhakti can be attained at any consciousness. That's what I picked up. It's not that if I'm very sinful, I have to cross every ladder. No.
So what
I
is
can.
required? Now what makes the difference? So many people come in touch with devotees. Everybody doesn't become a devotee. So what makes the difference is, what makes the difference, anyone? So some people we go to, they get in touch with devotees, but everybody doesn't become a devotee.
Prabhuji, we have to follow whatever Krishna is saying. Whatever Krishna is saying, we have to just obediently follow that.
Submissiveness to one's guru,
Ji, Prabhuji.
simplistically, ability to follow instructions as it is, that makes a difference. Nothing else.
Following one's guru and whatever Krishna has said, it's just
Guru
unconditionally.
will
Shouldn't
say what Krishna says. Okay,
Ji,
so
Prabhuji.
whatever Guru says.
Ji, Prabhuji.
Guru will say what Krishna says. Both will not talk different. Krishna says, "Maam ekam sharanam vaja," सब मेरी शरण में आओ, and Guru will say, "Krishna की शरण में जाओ." No difference.
Ji, Prabhuji.
Isn't it? So just follow, work under strict guidance of a guru. And don't take decisions based on one's mental, instructions. Follow Guru's instructions and you'll remain safe in one's devotional life.
And one more thing, Prabhuji, what I picked up today is whatever, even if we are having adverse situation in our life, that's an opportunity to come closer to Krishna, because that's a mercy, that's a disguised mercy from Krishna, so that we can remember Krishna more and more. And when we remember anything more and more, when we are attached to anything, we are more surrendering. So that's what I picked up today.
Yes. Thank you, Mataji. Anyone else? Please speak out. Don't keep it in your heart or mind. Yes, Amangsha Mataji. You're the most intellectual class of society. You must speak. Isn't it? Then discussion becomes more meaningful. Yes, who raised Amangsha Mataji?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam to everyone. Today's class was like an eye-opening. It's an eye-opener to realize and know that where Bhakti Yoga stands among the yoga ladder. While doing, we came across this Bhakti Yoga, and we are trying to become servants of Krishna, and this knowledge came so easily to us smoothly. But it's an eye-opening to realize that we did not have to perform all the other karma kands, and that whatever we are doing must be offered to Krishna, and it's a very serious aspect to it. it has a serious aspect to realizing and doing our work.
इसलिए चैतन्य महाप्रभु कहते हैं कि you should never be lazy in understanding Siddhanta. To understand the principles of spiritual life, one should not be lazy, very strict and very attentive, because that is going to make a difference in our life, in our spiritual life. Yeah. So we are all very fortunate just because of the mercy of Prabhupada. Let me put it very, brief manner. Prabhupada wanted that, people of this Kali Yuga, maybe the most fallen, also become devotee of Krishna. That's why we're getting access to, devotees, we're getting access to scriptures, we're getting association to, temples, so many things which are conducive to our spiritual growth. Just, because of his mercy. Isn't it? So it is not our effort. Just imagine and see, go to your history and see what is that work we have done which will qualify us to become devotee of Krishna. Isn't it? Nothing special we have done. So we are completely mercy dependent. And that is, we should remember throughout our devotional life. We are dependent on mercy of Krishna and his devotees. We are not self-sufficient to, go through this journey. Okay, any last comment? Then we close. Yes, Pastor Mataji.
धन्यवाद प्रणाम प्रभु जी, हरे कृष्णा।
हरे कृष्णा।
प्रभु जी, ये बहुत अच्छा लगा कि जो प्रेम का भाव है वो सबसे ऊंचा है, क्योंकि वो अगर भक्ति में घुल जाए तो उसके बिल्कुल मायने ही बदल जाते हैं। So devotion with love is what I think.
So let me just add to it. Devotion means service with love.
Service with love.
It means there's an action. Other one can love, sitting idle also. Prabhupada very smartly defined devotion as loving service. So there is an action with love. Action of serving Krishna with love.
Yeah. So action of serving Krishna with love. Thank
with
you.
Love means what? It is unconditional. There's no demand. Love means what? Unconditional service. No demand. I need this, I need that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Daya Mata, you wanted to say something?
प्रणाम प्रभु जी।
प्रणाम माता जी।
आप जो समझा रहे हैं उसमें तो इतना रस अमृत जैसे कानों में घुलता चला जाता है, इतना पढ़ा, लेकिन जो अभी बताया आपने ये योग के स्तर, ये बहुत अच्छे से समझ में आए हैं आज। और इसका उल्टा आपने शायद पहले भी एक बार कभी समझाया था, नीचे से शुरू करके जो ऊपर तक भगवान तक प्राप्ति तक जाने के लिए। दूसरी बात ये कि आप एक बात बहुत अच्छी आई है कि हम बिना किसी भावना के, बिना किसी इच्छा के, शुद्ध भावना के साथ सबके साथ व्यवहार करें और अपनी सारी इंद्रियों को सदा भगवान की उसमें ही लगाए रखें, जैसा कि कृष्ण जी का योगक्षेमम वहाम्यहम्, कि मैं उसके पर उत्तरदायित्व लेता हूँ। फिर मैं तो ये बहुत बिल्कुल आज आपने बहुत और अच्छे से समझाई, तो बहुत अच्छा लगा। एक प्रश्न है मेरा, लेकिन ये कर्मयोग बड़ा कठिन है प्रभु जी। ज्ञान योग कर्मयोग समझना बहुत ही, इसमें बहुत सारी चीजें सब मिश्रित हो रही हैं, तो इसको अलग से स्पष्ट एकदम समझना बड़ा कठिन है, लेकिन आप बहुत अच्छे से समझा रहे हैं।
ये भागवतम कहती है कि ज्ञान मतलब डिटैचमेंट, ठीक है, और भागवतम कहती है वासुदेवे भगवती भक्ति योगा प्रयोजिता जनयति आशु वैराग्यम. When we engage our services in the service of Krishna, janayati ashu vairagyam, detachment comes quickly and naturally. You don't have to do separate endeavor for this. It is a byproduct of bhakti. Not only vairagya, jnanam cha yad ahetukam, even knowledge manifests automatically. So simply by serving our misconceptions will go. Our attachment to this material world will go simply by engaging our senses in service of Krishna. This is the power of Bhakti Yoga.
प्रभु जी एक प्रश्न था वो ये आपने बताया कि सन्यास जो है वो महिलाएं नहीं ले सकती है, लेकिन अपने पुराणों में भी है कि बाद में जब वानप्रस्थ में ऋषि मुनियों के साथ उनकी पत्नियां भी जाया करती थी।
वानप्रस्थ तक पत्नी जा सकती है, सन्यास में नहीं।
लेकिन अभी अपन देख रहे हैं कि कई सन्यासिनियां हैं जिन्होंने सन्यास लिया है, शादी नहीं की है, और वो
शास्त्रों के विरुद्ध है माता जी वो।
अच्छा अच्छा, तो गलत है फिर। प्रणाम प्रभु जी।
हरे कृष्ण। देखिए सन्यासी का मतलब क्या होता है? सन प्लस यास, fully surrendered to Krishna to preach the holy name. Sannyasi has to travel different places. Sannyasi is not supposed to stay at one place more than 3 days. Why? So that they don't get attached to anything. मान लो किसी घर पे रुके, 3 दिन ज्यादा रुक, 10 दिन रुके, फिर उनका मन करेगा यहीं रहते हैं ना, अच्छा है ना, क्या जरूरत जाने की, यहीं से प्रचार करते हैं, तो they get attached to it. And sannyasi is not supposed to be attached, so they are not supposed to be staying at one place beyond 3 days. They must be traveling. Now, can a female travel like this? Practically, forget about other aspects. Practically, it's not possible. Isn't it? Very difficult. So, there are different responsibilities of male and female, but both can be guaranteed, ticket to spiritual world. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. So my only request is please chant your round attentively and read whatever you hear many times before next class comes. So when I ask, please summarize. Every hand should, be raised. Everybody should be in position to explain what did we discuss in the previous class. That's the only request I have. Okay. हरे कृष्णा श्री प्रभुपाद की जय, गौर भक्तवृंद की जय, वांछा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधु एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमः। Thank you very much.